Before anything, a lot of times we have to recognize and remember what our reasons why are for doing something, because when the why is strong enough, we will take the action, right? A lot of times we know what to do. So why don't we take action? Because we don't have a strong enough reason. Here's an example. We all know here how to make more money with Cutco is just do more demos. How do you do more demos? We just make more phone calls. It's a pretty simple formula. It's on my whiteboard. Make more calls, do more demos, make more money, right? That is pretty simple. Why do we not do it though? Sometimes we just don't have a strong enough reason why. So when it comes to referrals, why get good at this? Why get really good at getting in front of really great customers? Because more leads means more of everything else. Schedule flexibility, right? If you had unlimited people to call, more experience, more enjoyment, more confidence, and ultimately more sales, which means more income. And the more income you have and the more sales you've made here, your position of choice here, grows exponentially. Your position of choice in life grows exponentially. If you have a massive income, you can work whenever you want, wherever you want, with whoever you want, right? So what would you envision for yourself if you had 500 people to call? Everybody close your eyes. If you want to play full out with me, close your eyes and just think to yourself, what would you envision? What is possible? How would you feel right now learning from Jared Erickson on how to sell more signature sets? How would you feel while listening to that message, knowing that after this ends, you could call a batch of 500 referrals? How much differently would you take in that information? Right? Now, how would you feel? You can keep your eyes closed if you want to. How would you feel if you had 500 people to call and you got 5 to 10 referrals in every single presentation? If you knew no matter what, you're going to show up, you're going to drop Siggies like Jared Erickson just taught you how to do, and you're going to end the presentation with 5 to 10 referrals. What if it was 15 to 20? What if you knew with confidence? What would you envision for yourself? What would you picture building for yourself? I'd assume you'd see yourself in Cabo right now, right? And last question, you can open your eyes if you want to, but what would you actually envision for yourself with this job if you knew that you had 500 people to call at all times, you always got 15 to 20 referrals, and every single person you saw lived in $1 million house? What would you envision for your life if that was the case? So, and then I would say, why does this have to be that far off? Why is this not the reality? There are a lot of people out there who live in really expensive houses who spend a lot of money on a lot dumber stuff than Cutco. And there's a lot of people who don't live in $1 million houses that buy a lot of Cutco. But what if you only showed money leads all the time? What if you just had unlimited people to call? Show me either thumbs up or thumbs down. How would you feel if you had unlimited people to call? Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I figured. So here's a couple of resources quick. If you want to go back and watch anything on recommendations, you can go to my YouTube channel right here and then go to the recommendation section. And all these little videos, they're all really helpful in their own way. I'm going to delete this Acres of Diamonds video that's on there and replace it with this one because I think this is going to be way better. But when it comes to recommendations, I'm going to do really briefly, I'm going to go through some of the fundamentals of recommendations, and then I'm going to get into the Acres of Diamonds stuff. A lot of the fundamental stuff you can watch on your own time on my YouTube channel. Okay, but some of the fundamentals with recommendations are right there. Memorize the approach. Okay. I was talking to someone in our office. I'm not going to throw them under the bus. And I said, how are you doing with recommendations? They said, not very well. I said, okay, how many, or I said, what do you think it is? And they said, well, I don't know. I said, do you have the approach memorized? And they said, I mean, for the most part, and in my head, I'm thinking for the most part, so if you, I don't know, if I said, hey, good luck with your marathon this weekend, and you said, yeah, thank you. Last time I tried, I didn't finish. Why? I don't know. I just kind of did my training, for the most part. For the most part, it just doesn't work. And here's why with recommendations, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the recommendations approach in the manual works. Okay. So the script of the recommendation approach works, but if you say it and it sounds scripted, then at that point, it doesn't feel the same way to the customer. Because when we do the demo, we can read the script word for word because they're not doing a favor for us at that point, right? Or no, at that point, what we're doing is we're educating them. Okay, so we can read the script because it doesn't matter. But if we read the script when we're asking for referrals, when we're asking for a favor, that's a little bit weird. I use the example all the time. Imagine this morning when I got my car stuck and there was a guy driving by with a snowplow and I like kind of waved him down and I asked him if he could pull me out and he said yes. Imagine if I would have went like this. Excuse me, sir. There's one way that you could really help me out right now, and it is by helping me pull my car out of the snow. So what I'm asking for, would that feel a little bit out of character? Would he be like, what is going on right now? So in life, when we ask for favors, it's genuine and from the heart. So why should it be any different in our presentation? Okay, people will want to help if they want to help, and that's if they want to help you out because you're genuinely asking for help. Okay, so the first thing is memorize the approach. The approach works, but it doesn't work if you sound like a robot. It also doesn't work if you make up your own thing. So how do you get through that? Just memorize it, because the approach is your foundation and the foundation is your potential. This is the biggest, tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa. It is huge, as you can see. And that foundation, without it, this building would crumble. So you can build this awesome empire of referrals and everything with this job, but it starts with the understanding that the approach is the fundamental spot of where referral starts for you. The other fundamentals of referrals is these three things. Mindset, you have to believe that people will give you referrals. Okay, you have to understand that people get referrals. Okay, you have to want to get them. The second thing is energy. You have to bring a certain type of energy to a Zoom call for somebody to want to put their friends through that Zoom call, right? If you all showed up here today and during my message, I was sitting back like this and, kind of talking monotone and not having very much fun and didn't have you stretch out. At the end, I was like, all right, yeah. I encourage, and then I would ask you to come to another call next week. Honestly, if that's how I showed up for you, I would hope that you wouldn't show up next time. But if you show up for your customer, they're going to want to refer people to you. And have fun, right? Have fun, tell jokes, make it be the highlight of their week so that when they give you their friends' numbers, they know that their friend isn't going to come back and say, what the heck? Why would you give me that guy, Nick Leindecker's? Why would you give him my phone number? That was a miserable use of my time. No, have fun with them so that they want to give you referrals so that their friends come back and say, hey, I actually bought $1,000 from that Cutco rep, Jared. That was awesome. Or thanks for referring my name to Belle. She was so sweet. I wish my daughter was more like her. That was so much worth my time, more than the voice, right? So have fun and bring that energy so that people want to refer you. A couple other fundamentals: be so good that they can't ignore you. Show up so professionally, so put together, put together for them such a great presentation where they feel heard and you find them a solution and you blow their mind with Cutco. Be so good that when you ask for referrals, they're like, absolutely, I'll give you referrals. That was awesome. That was so good. And some of the ways you can do that are get up, have fun, smile, be memorable. Okay. The second part of this is set proper expectations for your presentation. A lot of times the disconnect like when people feel a little bit weird during the referrals, or when they give you objections of any kind, like, I'll send them later, or I just don't feel comfortable, or I'm not the type of person that sends that would do that. The reality is they're just not comfortable in that moment because they weren't necessarily expecting to do that in that moment. So you can't surprise them with referrals. You just can't. Because the more times you prime somebody to feel a certain type of way, when it happens, they're not surprised at all. It would be like if every time you saw Nick Leindecker on a Zoom call, he had a full beard and his hair, right? Just like he looks right now. If he looked like that every time you hopped on Zoom, and then the 10th time you hop on and he's bald and clean shaven, wouldn't you be a little bit like, whoa, what happened to Nick? Is that Nick Leindecker? Right? But what happens is we get normalized to things that we're used to. So if you show up and you tell them right away, hey, I'm going to ask for referrals today, and then you bring it up again and again and again, by the time you ask, they're just like, yeah, okay, all right, here we are. We're at this part of the presentation. They're not surprised at all. So plant the seeds as early as you can. You could do this. Hey, I only know so many people, right? And just bring up the fact that, hey, I only know so many people, and I'm going to ask you for referrals at the end, or at the end of your goal sharing. You can say, my biggest goal, this is on my YouTube, my biggest goal is not that you buy $10,000 of Cutco today. My biggest goal is that we have so much fun that you would want to tell everybody about me. Okay, so there's different ways that you can prime the customer to feel a certain type of way. And priming is so powerful. I'm going to use an example really quick from this book I'm reading. It's called Blink, and it is so good. Malcolm Gladwell, if anybody here has read his stuff before, Donovan, I see you. And priming is so powerful. They took a study group, 200 people in each group. Okay. And one of the groups, they had journal for 5 minutes about how they would show up if they were a college professor. They had the second group journal about sports bloopers. Okay. So like people slipping on the field and that kind of stuff. The group that was primed to think like a college professor, they had them play Trivia Pursuit. They got 56% of the questions right. The group that had their mind on thinking of sports bloopers, 42.3% of the questions they got right. That is a massive difference because they were primed to feel a certain type of way. It's pretty awesome. So how are you priming your customer to feel about recommendations? Here's a simple hack you can use. It's called the 3 promises. You can show up and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, look, at the end of the day here, I have 3 promises for you. My first promise is that I'll be the highlight of your day, or I will for sure try to be. I'm going to tell all my best jokes. I'll laugh at them myself so that you feel like you have to, and I'm going to do my best so that this is a good time. My second promise, Mrs. Jones, is I'm going to show you everything Cutco makes. I'm going to show you all the knives. I'm going to show you the pots and pans. I'm going to show you the forks and spoons. I'm going to show you the hunting knives. We have business gifts. I'm going to show you that. Mrs. Jones, you don't have to buy anything, but I'm going to show you all of it. Okay. And my last promise, Mrs. Jones, is I'm going to ask you for referrals. All right. And I'm going to try to be so good that you want everybody to see me, but these are my 3 promises for you. Does that sound good? And again, we're priming them to feel some type of way. This also helps you show the whole presentation and not feel like you're dragging it on, right? And the third fundamental, before I get into Acres of Diamond stuff, the third fundamental is you have to ask. You have to ask for referrals to get referrals. And if you're somebody on here who is, at the point in your Cutco career where you're like, I kind of feel like I'm running out of people. Hey, welcome to it. We all get there because we all only know a certain amount of people, right? You ask any veteran. I know this because we had a division staff meeting this morning, and Dane said he said, hey, raise your hand if you felt like when you were a rep, you got to a point where you ran out of people to call. And every manager except one raised their hand. And their situation was different. They were bouncing around, so they had to get referrals right away. So if you haven't got to that point yet, you just haven't made enough phone calls. And if you have gotten to that point, you make a decision. Do I want to get good at referrals, or do I want to give up on this job? And if you're here and you're past that point where you ran out, that means you've opted in to getting good at referrals. And if you get to that point and you opt out, well, then you opt out and you just won't have people to call. But understand that, of course, you're going to run out of people to call. You don't know everybody. And at that point, you have to opt into, hey, I'm going to get good at this one skill that can make me thousands of dollars, which is referrals. But you have to ask. Oftentimes, we don't get referrals at the beginning of our Cutco career because we just don't ask for them. This was me anyway. My whole fast start, winter break, I didn't ask one person for referrals, and then I ran out. I told my manager, Casey, I was like, I don't know, I feel like I ran out of people. And he said, have you ever asked for referrals? I was like, yeah, I mean, I got a couple. Okay. Then I had to dig in. I had to get good at this. Part of it is use the script, right? And then part of it is all the little things I was just talking about. That leads me to the, I'd say the money in this, which is the acres of diamond stuff. This stuff does not matter if you're not using the fundamentals. So if you're not getting referrals at all, this doesn't matter. Okay. But if you're already getting referrals, perfect. You can add this stuff on top of it. So when it comes to acres of diamonds, what does this mean? What do diamond recs lead to for you? Everything we just talked about, but you doing a fraction of the presentations. More CPO, more income, more choice, all of that by doing less presentations. So you can grind right now, winter break. If you have more time, grind, get good at this. And then in the school year, only show diamond customers. You barely have to work over the whole spring semester, and you could make between $5,000 and $10,000. Doesn't even sound real. Okay. And the other part of this is, what can an amazing network lead to for you? I think I botched the transition of this, but I wanted to show this. These are a couple of situations in my life where it was all network. So this guy, Charlie Rocket, has anybody heard of Charlie Rocket? He was on a Nike commercial. He was like over 400 pounds. He lost all this weight, ran a triathlon or Ironman. He did Ironman. Nike featured him. He has 1 million followers. I met him. Matt Eisman, the host of American Ninja Warrior. I met him. That's me and him right there. This is Alex Hormozi. Has anybody here watched any of Alex Hormozi's stuff on YouTube or Instagram or anything? I know a few of the St. Paul people have. Alex Hormozi, if you guys want to get good at sales, just look up Alex Hormozi and follow him and subscribe. I met him. So how did I meet these people? Like, how are these people in my network? It's through other people, which is the same thing as you getting referrals. How do you get in front of really successful or rich people and show them Cutco? How does Jared Erickson, have an average order of about $1,000? He shows good people. How does that happen? He's diligent with his referrals. So here's the power of an amazing network, by the way. So here's me being from Pierce, Minnesota, 1,000 people. You can make an argument. Some people sell a lot of Cutco because of their initial network. I would almost fight you on that. That's the reason I sold a ton of Cutco. I was basically showing farmers. Okay. So I've come from, my dad's an electrician. My mom's a teacher. I didn't grow up on Lake Minnetonka or anything like that. And I've, met these awesome people, as you saw right here. So how does that happen? It's all through people. So Cutco, I met this guy, Jacob, who referred me to a guy, Michael Chu. It's his birthday today, actually. That's how I met Charlie Rocket. Jack Ryan, I met through Cutco, took me to a Tony Robbins. Cutco also led me to Danny Haish, who's on here. Danny, great friend of mine, legend in Cutco, North Star. And through those two, I met Matt Eisman, the host of American Ninja Warrior. Danny recognized him. I didn't. Danny made the introduction for me. It's really cool because he knows I really want to get on that show. And that's the power of network too. I've always wanted to be a Ninja Warrior. Danny knew that. Danny made the introduction for me. How awesome is that? Power of having people in your network. Cutco led me to Dane and Nick Leindecker. Dane showed me bigger pockets. This guy led me to a real estate coach. Nick's wife, Becca, helped me with the power of Chris Carr. Chris Carr is a lender who made a really creative solution to my being 20 years old. And this whole situation led me to buying my 2 real estate investment properties, which one of them we Airbnb in St. Paul. And this is all the power of a network. And this doesn't include Alex Hormozi, who I met. And it also doesn't include this guy, He has 463 units in Texas, and he's just really, he's been on a ton of podcasts, yada, yada. And this is me at a 4-year-old's birthday party with Dane. And this is Aaron Amuchastegui right here. This is creepy. I took this picture just to like prove to people that I met Aaron Amuchastegui. If anybody ever knew who he was, I didn't get a picture with him, but like just the power of a network. Do you guys see that? So that is what referrals with this job can do for you, is it can get you into these awesome networks, and it can land you these awesome jobs someday. And it's all about how you ask. It's all about the ask. So here's some of the questions you can ask when you get to referrals. Who do you know in sales? Okay, who do you know in sales? Who do you know that lives in X neighborhood? So if I'm in the Twin Cities, I'm going to ask, who do you know that lives in Wayzata? Or who do you know that lives in Shoreview? Or, I don't even know all the, wealthy neighborhoods, but around you, like, who do you know that lives in these neighborhoods? Be very specific. Do they know why you're asking? Yes. Is that a bad thing? No. They get it. They don't care. Okay. Who do you know that could just buy this whole presentation right now? The power of asking for what you want, you guys. You got to ask for what you want. Who do you know that went to school to be a lawyer or a doctor or a orthodontist? So what I want you to really take from this is, how powerful of questions are you asking when it comes to referrals? Who do you know that sends their kids to the Blake School, or St. Croix Lutheran, or I don't even know the wealthy schools in your area? They know why you're asking. These are powerful thought joggers. And once a customer picks up on why you're asking, because again, they don't know what you want until you tell them what you want. But once they pick up on this, most customers, they want to help. And how do I know customers want to help? Christmas just happened. Did anybody here get a Christmas present for somebody in their life? Raise your hand if you got somebody a Christmas present. Okay. How did it feel when that person opened the present in front of you? Did that feel good, or did that feel bad? That felt pretty good, I'm assuming. And I'm sure you didn't regret getting them that gift at all. That is what it feels like to a customer when they give you money referrals. They are so glad that they did it. And they want to help you. So for you, jot down in your life, what is the profession that you want to start showing to? Ask for that. What is the city in your area that you want to get into? Ask for that. What's the neighborhood that you want to get into? Which schools do you want the parents of those kids? Where do you want to get? A guy, Luke Schammel, who worked here when I was first starting. Luke's a legend in North Star, ran a branch office, and now he does real estate stuff in the Twin Cities, and a really great guy. Luke Schammel, when he was getting recommendations, he would always ask for a specific country club, and he'd get referrals from there all the time. He sold a ton of Cutco. He'd show up and he'd say, hey, who do you know that goes to this country club right by his house? And he would also go on his customers' Facebook accounts, find their friends, find the wealthiest looking people, write them down on a list, show up to the presentation and say, hey, by the way, after the whole Rex thing, he'd say, I was wondering if you could give me Callie Nielsen's phone number as well. I was wondering if you'd be open to giving me Donovan Palma's phone number. That might seem like a stretch for you guys. It is not. Most customers are actually very impressed when you show up with your homework done. Okay. So where do you want to get with referrals? That's a really powerful place to start. And then once you get them, qualify the recommendations with the customer. So it's, hey, thank you so much for these 15 recs. Who's married? Who on this list is married? Put an M by their name. Who on this list, what is their spouse's name? That way, when you call, you're not awkwardly being like, I don't know if I can ask if they have a spouse, because, what if they aren't there? What if they aren't married? Hey, Mrs. Jones, who are the first 3 people that you would call if you were me? They know what that means. And then you star those people and target them and don't let them go. Who on this list, Mrs. Jones, cooks the most? Give me the people on here that cook the most. Who's home during the day, Mrs. Jones? Why do you want to know this? So you know who to call first to fill your day spots up, right? Or after. If your night spots are filled, just call the Ds. But when you do this, when you categorize your leads, you can be a lot more targeted again, instead of just looking at a list being like, all right, here we go. Here's 15. And then you accidentally call a 23-year-old and you're like, oh, dang it. Right? Last slide. Here's some big tips when it comes to referrals. This is a business tip, okay? Overpay for the top of your funnel. You will never regret having an abundance of leads. How do I know? Because at the beginning, when I said, how would you feel if you had 500 people to call? You all gave me a thumbs up. You will not regret having an abundance of people to call. So if you could pay for 500 leads, how much would you pay for that? Seriously, how much would you pay for that? Because you have one of the most powerful things an HM30 would ever want at your disposal from your manager, and that is free Cutco. Your manager can get you discounted Cutco for this if you ask them to, depending, right? Say to your manager, hey, I want to utilize this that Alex was talking about. How could we make this happen? And you can give it to your customers for free for recommendations. One of these things is you could actually have them pick. You could say, hey, Mrs. Jones, this list of 15, for every 5 that sit down with me, I will get you a free piece of whatever Cutco you want. And then you tell your manager, hey, I need to get a discounted Cutco K-bar. Could we make that happen? Your manager says, yeah, I can make that happen. And that is worth your investment. A free peeler for 15. That's what we've been doing in St. Paul. And I just, email Cutco corporate. I say, how many more peelers can I get? And they charge me like $6.50 for them. And I'm just going to ship them to all the people. So your manager might say, hey, $10 for a peeler, also worth your investment every single time. $10 for 15 leads. And if you qualify them, you make that investment back halfway into your demo with just the base pay, right? So this is the whole thing, is overpay for the top of your funnel and really start to understand how worth it this is for you. You all gave me a thumbs up. If you had 500 people to call, imagine the life you could build for yourself, right? So pay for that, get that. Start to treat this like a business. That is when you will really take off with this, is when you really start to recognize that, holy moly, through the power of networking, I could get this. Through the power of networking, I could get this. Through the power of showing great people, I could earn this semester working 5 hours a week. I could have this position of choice. I could earn these skills. Okay. And here's a powerful question. Anytime you do the referral stuff or Acre to Diamond stuff, instead of asking for it, say, hey, Mr. Jones, would you be against blank? It's a little reverse psychology trick from Alex Hormozy. And then one more small tip is show up to the demo with your notebook filled, except for their page, have it filled out, ready to go. So this is the last tip I have for you when it comes to this. It shows how much you care when you show up. If you come to the presentation with a notebook, have a referrals notebook is the easiest way to get recs. And you hold the notebook up and you flip through and you say, this is my referrals notebook. And every page you flip to has 15 people already on it. Your customer is going to start to get FOMO because people want to do what other people do. And then you get to their page and you say, Mrs. Jones, I already made your list. It's the Haley Dolan Nice People list. I have it numbered out to 15. And then you ask. Okay, so at that point, it's an expectation. And what I used to do, I used to take a notebook and I'd have my sister fill out the first like 6 pages for me with her handwriting. I'd be like, look, this is this and I'd flip through and it would look like 6 customers did it. Okay, it's even easier for you because it's virtual. You just fill it out yourself anyway. So fake proof. But biggest thing, remember, practice, memorize the script. You can go to my YouTube if you want to see more. But that is what I've got on Acres of Diamonds. Passing it back to, I think Dane is back in here now. Maybe it's Nick.
What's happening? Awesome. If you guys got something good from that message, throw it in the chat.